The lesson is a blessing too. I remember when I was homeless, okay, and I would speak to my oldest son about just what life was looking like for me. You know what I'm saying? He was just so devastated. I cannot make this up. Like, devastated. The truth is, I felt I'd worn out my welcome at my mom's, right? And so it was like, okay, well, it's time to go. But there's some there's some things about even that, because today I know things to be different. Like, truth of the matter is, when I speak about basically being able to put your children in a better position than you are or were, me personally, okay, if I had a daughter, and if God ever, okay, if God ever says, blesses me with a daughter, I would not put my daughter, I wouldn't, she wouldn't have to experience homelessness. I'll just put it that way. My daughter can stay home until she marries, okay, until her husband comes to get her, okay. But at that time, I felt like I'd worn out my welcome at my mother's home. And so, you do what you got to do when you feel like you're being called to do what you got to do, period. And he just couldn't understand, like, Mom, why are you choosing to live in your car? Mom, why are you choosing to be homeless? Why are you choosing? Why? It was just, Mom, why are you choosing that? At the time, I didn't have the guts to tell him, like, baby, when you're walking with God, you have to take the good with the bad. It's not just the good. You understand what I'm saying? And I say not just the good, but again, the lesson is a blessing too. So at times we think that God is just this genie, right? We rub the genie's bottle and we get all our heart's desires, and we don't understand that blessing is also the lesson too. So I was sheltering him from hating God. That's the way I saw it. Like, I literally said to God, like, I don't want him to hate you. I don't want him to not follow you simply because he has resentment or bitterness towards you concerning me and what's going on in my life, right? And so I just would be like, baby, mommy's just doing this because I feel called to do this right now. And you guys are in a space where you're provided for, you're protected, right? You have provision, and it's an opportunity for me to just focus on myself and do what, I know I need to do. And yet he still couldn't understand. Why does that have to include homelessness? And I know that he felt shame. You know what I'm saying? It was very shameful. He was embarrassed, right? And homelessness isn't necessarily something I feel that you can say you don't feel embarrassed. Like, it comes with the package. I knew I couldn't stop that. I couldn't stop him from being embarrassed. I couldn't stop him from feeling shame. And that's what I mean when I say, like, the lesson is also a blessing, because it's a natural emotion. It's something that you're going to feel. And we will try to shelter our children from certain experiences or certain lessons, all because we don't feel that they're capable. Like, I don't want you to have to go through that. But what if, in fact, God intends for them to get a lesson out of your situation, blessing out of your situation? So I didn't even realize it at that point that I was blocking his blessing. I literally was coming in between him and God, like him knowing God another way and knowing another facet of God, right? Because I was too prideful in that moment to say, well, baby, when you're following God, you got to take the good with the bad, and you can't just only look to God for what you perceive to be good, because the lesson is also a blessing. The lesson is also good. So I'm saying all this again because it's very pertinent right now that we understand all the ways in which we may be a stumbling block for our children. It's a stumbling block for other people because you are afraid to either give your testimony and afraid of like someone knowing God in a different way other than what the fairy tale God that people believe, God is. Like, it's not a fairy tale at all. And I was struggling with that. You know, I didn't grow up knowing God like that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't grow up knowing that lessons are blessings too. I didn't grow up knowing even what blessing was, if I'm being honest. Like, I didn't know God like that. I didn't know God that way. And so now God is giving me revelation, right? All glory be to God. God is giving me revelation about how we've broken that cycle, because now I can say that my children are getting to know God in a way that I didn't get to know him as a youth. So when we say stuff like, I want my children to be better than me, yeah, I want my children to have better than me, so on and so forth, like that includes knowing God. So I'm grateful, right? I'm so grateful that my children are getting to know God in a way that I did not get to know God at their ripe young age. And this is how, again, we break generational cycles. We break generational curses when we get out of their way and we get out of God's way, so they can learn God for themselves and they can be set on a different path, right? On a different course. And now they're literally standing on our shoulders, right? Like, I don't want my kids just to be like me. I don't want my kids to be like me. I want my kids to have better and to be better than me. And that starts with a relationship with God, right? That starts with Jesus being Lord over your life. And in all the ways we get in the way of that is when we try to tell our children what we think they should be doing, and we completely avoid certain conversations, or we try to shelter them from certain experiences because we don't understand that the lesson is a blessing too. So it's like, no, I don't want you to know God that way. I don't want you to be upset at God. I don't want to blame this on God. But it's not even about blaming it on God. It's about, that's what it takes, and that's a part of walking with God. It's about knowing who God is. You have to really have a wealthy mindset to say, I can afford for my child to learn who God is. I'm going to say that again. I can afford to allow my child to know who God is. Okay? So, yeah, I just thought I'd share that because we be putting stumbling blocks in front of our own, saying, like, oh, well, I'm doing what's right, thinking we know what is right. But in all actuality, we are hindering their growth and also their opportunity to know God and to have a relationship with God for themselves. And that is just idolatry. So the lesson is a blessing. Take that with you.